Sticking with Terreno Atletico, we also had the flat stages, and obviously Biniam Girmay is one of the hot talking points this year. He won a stage in the Tour of Valenciana, but he is the pride and joy of Intermarché Wanty Group Roubaix, really the front figure. He got two top fives, one top three, but he wasn't quite there with the fast men, and we said he was similar to Peter Sagan. And do you think this is, yeah, I don't know. Do you think Biniam Girmay is just not that upper echelon of sprinters?
I think our comparison to early days Sagan is still incredibly valid. If not, the results which he's been getting here has just been solidifying that point because those sort of Binny just finishes like fourth, fifth, sixth in sprints, and that's generally where early doors Sagan tended to reside in the sprints, the flat ones that is. And I just think that Binny is. I don't even know what it is, but he just always seems to be not in particularly great position, or he's usually quite isolated and he's moving up in the wind an awful lot, and he's just kind of using up that sprint energy, trying to move up from 10th wheel to fifth wheel. And I just think that it's maybe just an experience thing. Maybe it's Intermarché aren't experienced enough in the lead out. Maybe the lead out's not good enough. Maybe it's I think it's multifactorial. I don't think it's just Binny. In terms of out and out speed, no, I probably wouldn't put him on the level of Philipsen, but I don't think that he's like massively far off. But I think that he's more versatile than Philipsen is. I think that Binny trying to turn himself into an out and out bunch sprinter like a Philipsen, a Jakobsen, Groenewegen example, for example, that's not really Binny's style. I think that he's better as a versatile sprinter and like Sagan, like we've said multiple times. And I think that yes, his positioning and multiple things in his sprinting in these pure bunch sprints could be better, which would certainly help for a green jersey stab, for example. But I think that he's doing okay. There are a couple of things he could do better, but he's not bad.
I'm trying to dig up a stat right now, and I'm struggling to sort of okay. So outside of Biniam Girmay's win at the Giro, he's never taken a stage of a UCI World Tour stage race. I'm currently going through all the green jersey winners of the Tour de France. All the way down to the 1980s. Yes, this is before the Tour. This is before the UCI
Before
World Tour existed.
anyone
The
here
equivalent
existed.
of the
Wow.
races, such like a Catalunya, Paris-Nice, a Tirreno. They've all won a stage of Paris-Nice, Tirreno, Catalunya, these kind of races before winning the green jersey. Biniam Girmay's not done that yet. He's not going to win the green jersey this year if we follow that trend, which seems harsh to say, but history does seem to sort of repeat itself. The Tour de France is a huge step up from the Giro. And yes, he was up there in contention for a Malia Ciclamino at the Giro, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be going for a green jersey. Giacomo Nizzolo has won multiple points jerseys at the Giro. Has he ever come close to winning a Tour de France one? No.
No.
Nasser Bouhanni has won a points jersey at the Giro. He's never going to win one at the Tour de France. Fernando Gaviria, for instance, has won one at the Giro. That's not won one at the Tour de France. I just think in terms of historical trends, it's not pointing towards a positive trajectory. Maybe in sort of 2 or 3 years, yes. Once Intermarché as a team collectively mature their sprinting train, because Biniam Girmay seems to be dumped about sixth wheel with no leader man in the final 500 meters of a sprint stage. And he's surfing the wheels, he's eating wind, and he gets boxed in. That's not how you win a green jersey. He might come third, fourth, or fifth in that, but he needs to
Yeah.
up that game and up that the leader training needs to be spot on, especially at a Tour de France when you're going to have Soudal Quickstep who are going to bring Florian Seneschal, Mikael Melko, Bertrand Leberge with a Fabio Jakobsen Tim Merlier at the end of the train. Groenewegen has got a great train with Luca Mezgec, for instance. There are so many teams with stronger leadouts that Biniam Girmay is going to find it hard. Yes, he can probably surf the wheels at a Giro finish and finish in top four, but at Tour de France, it's very hard to do that. Sagan did it, yes, but that took years for Sagan to get to that point. Winning Paris-Nice stages in 2010, 2 years later, he won a green jersey. We haven't seen Biniam Girmay win a Tirreno stage, a Paris-Nice stage, or any of those kind of level stages. So I'm skeptical to say the green jersey's right on the horizon. Maybe wait until 2025.
The similarities is quite funny because, well, okay, Peter Sagan did the Vuelta before, but he's 22. Peter Sagan was 22. He's going to be debuting his first Tour de France. Obviously, he didn't finish the Giro last year, which that is one of the criteria if you're going to win the points jersey. But do you not think with Wout van Aert, as we mentioned earlier, potentially having to be more focused now on Vingegaard duties, so he's not going to be able to do his little pet project? Oh, that's as UAE are going to be very strong, so he's going to need more support Vingegaard, and thereby that kind of frees up the green jersey competition. And the sprinters don't really seem too bothered to go up the road and chase the intermediate sprints, which Biniam Girmay could potentially do.
Yeah, I do think you're right that, yeah, Wout van Aert especially, it depends on what his goals are for this. Of course, he got the green jersey last year. Is that just a box which he wanted to tick? And then he's just kind of quite content with not doing that again, and just maybe he'll go for some stages but not focus on the green jersey. Maybe that's the case. But then again, you never know with Jumbo Visma. They are very smoke and mirrors. They keep their cards close to their chest. You never really know what they're planning on doing. So I always take whatever they say with a pinch of salt. But Binny does have the capabilities going up the road, but I'm not sure the Tour route this year seems to favour perhaps the pure sprinters because of the way that the points classification weighting goes towards just the pure flat stages. But Binny, if he finishes inside the top five in those pure flat sprints, but then gets up the road, then for sure I think that he could be contesting the green jersey. But like Ewan was saying, it's going to be quite hard to come in immediately into the biggest stage in cycling that he's never done before, and he's going to be doing something which he hasn't really done before, which is really focusing upon the niches and the nuances of the point system that's dished out in the Tour. It's a thing which perhaps you need the experience of knowing when to invest energy and when to not. For example, if Binny invests a lot of energy into a medium mountain stage to try and win an intermediate sprint, but then ends up doing really crap the day after in a pure run sprint because he's absolutely knackered, then that's a bad call to have made. And I think maybe it's a thing which it might be a bit of a push this year, but with time, Binny, I think I'd be surprised if throughout Binny's career he didn't win a green jersey. I think that's the main point which I'm wanting to take away from this.
Yeah, I think it is hard to sort of jump in and get the green jersey immediately. It's very rare. I think only sort of generational talent. Although Biniam Girmay is a generational talent, I think putting him next to the names of sort of Pogacar jumping in and getting the yellow jersey, for instance, Sagan getting the green jersey as well. Even Egan Bernal, it took him a year to really warm up to the GC game. Wout van Aert rode 3 Tours de France before he went for the green jersey, let's not forget. And even wearing the yellow jersey, it took him 3 Tours de France before getting to that point. Van der Poel, yes, he parachuted in and got his stage win on stage 2. But it does take these generational talents to get there. Maybe Biniam Girmay is not in that place yet, but he's just got to learn from this first Tour de France, probably sort of get to grips with it. It's a very different beast too, the Giro d'Italia. And Biniam Girmay's not ridden that many UCI World Tour races. I know I always bang on about the UCI World Tour level. Biniam Girmay needs to get used to riding these sort of top World Tour level races. It's the same caveats I have with Arnaud Delis as well. In terms of Delis has done really well in the Ronde van Gent, Ronde van Deurne, Ronde van met de Slag, whatever. Like all these like GP old Belgian man. Like it's all these like races that aren't quite on the same level as a sort of a top level race. Yes, Biniam Girmay won the Tour of Flanders. He won that as a wild card, as a bit of an underdog. Yes, he was on our radars. But
sorry, what?
He won Gent-Wevelgem. Wait, what did I say?
Tour of Flanders.
Tour of Flanders.
I meant Gent-Wevelgem. Sorry.
Oh dear. Don't worry. Oh dear.
The Tour of East Flanders.
I mean, he would probably want that now.
He won that sort of a bit of a wild card, put a target on his back, and I think it'll be different. Yeah, and I think Jumbo Visma as well also kind of made a bit of a whoopsie that day. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I have some reserves.
Yeah, and it's also the thing where he won't have like a whole team around him more than likely, whereas a Philipsen and a Jakobsen / Merlier will have an absolute 8-man team like around them. You know, maybe they'll have 1 or 2 climbers in there, but Binny will likely have quite a split team with riders like Mienkes, Kalmajan, Robert, for example, all going for the breakaways. And those guys are not used to being involved in a lead out. And therefore, like we said, we've talked about how Binny gets really well positioned from 5K to 2K, but it's those last, and you're always like, oh, he's in good position. Oh, he's going to, like, then he's going to, the lead out men will kind of weed out and then he'll be in third wheel. But then he always gets shuffled back. And it's just a thing where Intermarché perhaps in the coming years will make some signings and perhaps bolster their ability to help Binny in a similar way to how Quickstep have had to bolster their GC team to help Evenepoel.
What's a shame is that so Danny van Poppel used to ride for Intermarché.
Oh, he did, didn't he?
And he left in 2022. A point of regret there. Why did they let Van Poppel go? Because he would have been the perfect guy to guide Biniam Girmay in. Intermarché have a couple of good sprinters, but we don't know what Kjær Berthesen and Ugo Pasch are going to bring in terms of a lead-out train. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty to be answered here. There's also a sort of extra sort of caveat as well, because Intermarché have never won a Tour de France stage. They've been there since what, 2017? They've had Guillaume Martin get top 20 in GC for a couple of years. Yes, he used to ride for this squad, by the way. They've had sort of Sandro Merteser in top 20 in GC, but they've not really done anything else. Taco van der Hoorn came pretty close to a stage win, but they haven't got one yet. I think going in a breakaway is an easier bet. Trying to get a win from a breakaway stage from Louis Meintjes. He's won Vuelta stages. He's won sort of decent races in terms of climbing in a breakaway, yada, yada. Get him, a Kobe Hosens, a Leon Calmajan to go to a breakaway and win a stage that way, instead of sort of putting all your eggs in a sprinting basket. Because on the stage, for instance, to Nagoro, on the motor sports track, it's a pan flat day. That's probably going to go to Jasper Philipsen or Jakobsen. There's no way Biniam Girmay wins that, I'm afraid. So it's just more of a risky game to put all of your sort of resources into Girmay.
I think you're right.
But yeah, I mean, it's still impressive that we're sitting here talking about a Eritrean 22-year-old potentially being in the conversation for a green jersey, but eventually he will, we think.
I would love nothing more this year than to see Binny win a stage of a Tour. It would really make the Tour, I think. It'd be fantastic to see.
Eritrea would completely you could see Eritrea from the moon probably if that happened.
And then he puts on his goggles and goes onto the podium and he's like, it's just to try and not get wiped out the race by a Prosecco cork.
Yeah, he's gonna be wary. It wouldn't be Prosecco though; it would be champagne. But at the
Tour
de
France,
they don't give our sparkling wine in the podium, so he's safe. He's safe in that regard.
Oh, there you go.
But I think there's a certain World Championships happening that would also suit him. So I think tuning up through July into August for the World Championships would make sense.
Absolutely.
I think he's got bigger fish to fry this year than Tirreno Adriatico.